here a minute. Uche, if you're there, can you please start the live feed so that it can go on? Okay. Okay, fine. So, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just receiving messages. I'm gonna shut it down and start. So thank you all again, once again. So this is Unburden. So essentially what Unburden is a program, an online support group for mental health. And why it is so critical is because a lot of people walk around not realizing that they have emotional or mental health issues. And it is not, when you have, like, when I talk about mental health issues, it is not that you are supposed to be in a psychiatric ward, you're schizophrenic, or you're supposed to be in a mental institution. What mental health is the quality of your thoughts and your emotions per time. And for us in Africa, the reality is we have not really understood our mental well-being as we should. You know, we're very religious people, so everything is it is well, and we pray, but as things are coming and understanding and knowledge is coming, we realize that we need to take better interest in how our mind works. So unburden is just to say you may be having some emotional or issues, or you may be having some thoughts, and you're wondering, why do I feel this way? Am I sentenced to feel this way? Am I destined to feel this way for the rest of my life? So unburden is to tell you, no, you don't have to. You don't have to be like this for the rest of your life. There's help, there's solution, to whatever you're going through. My name is Idiri Usediali, by the way, and I am your resident psychotherapist and clinical counselor. So welcome to today's edition of Unburden. Now, today's topic is a very critical one. And we're talking about how I can live beyond my mistakes and regrets and still thrive and still have a fulfilled life. How do I live beyond mistakes and regrets and still, have a fulfilled life? And this is so important because, how many of us have something that we've made a mistake and we have regrets? Can I see a show of hands? Or you can send me yes or no. How many of us have certain things that we've done in the past and we regret? How many people? Ah. Absolutely. A lot of us, have done, one or two things that we're not happy about. Absolutely. I am seeing so many hands up. So that means we are not alone. That means this is a general phenomenon, in life, that we do things and we say, I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably should have, tried to manage this thing in a different way. Now, the good news for us is that today, if for instance, you are overwhelmed by the power of your regrets to the point that you almost are not functioning properly because you keep saying, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done this. And this thing has so impacted my life that my present life is not as I would have wanted it. This topic is for you. This today's session is for you. So we're talking about how we can manage regrets and mistake and still live a qualitative life. So the first thing I will say is that, what is regret? And usually, because this is on Brady, I usually give people the opportunity to speak. So can you tell me what regret is? Which I don't know. Can you unmute, the participants, and let's talk to them. So what do you think regret is? Because it's unburdened, and unburdened is that you have the chance to tell me what it is. So what is regret? And what are some of the things that you know, people can regret. What is it? Uche, if you're there, please can you unmute people? If you want to chat, send a chat. If you want to type, you can send a message, or if you want to unmute yourself, please go ahead and tell me what is regret. Who can tell me? We're talking about overcoming regrets. So we want to find out what is the definition? What is a mistake? What is something that you regret? What is it? Can I get anybody to respond? Regret is blaming oneself, a feeling of deep hurt for a foolish decision. She said a foolish decision. Okay. Yeah. And someone said blaming oneself. Somebody unmuted. Does somebody want to talk?
Yes. Regret is wishing you did not do something you have already done.
Yes. Thank you, Auntie. Thank you so much for that contribution. Absolutely. Someone said regret is a feeling of guilt for a past situation, and you're all correct. So regret is a strong emotion that you feel when you recall, when you remember something that you did or that you didn't do. It is a strong negative emotion. Yes, regret is an emotion. It's a strong negative emotion when you remember an incident that caused you pain. Now, the incident may be something that you did or something that you didn't do. And because you recall that, oh, if I had done this, the trajectory of my life would have been different. Or if I didn't do this, the trajectory of my life would have been different. It causes you pain. So that is regret. It's like you made a mistake. And when anytime you remember what you did, there's a negative emotion. So that is what regret. It's painful. But there's something I want you to understand, that emotions, like whether it's regrets or it's whatever emotion, emotions in themselves are not bad. The regret you're feeling, that emotion of guilt, is not a bad thing in itself. I don't know if you believe that. Because emotions are like triggers that is telling you that it's probably time to do something. If it's time to drink water, you feel thirsty. If it's time for you to eat, you feel hungry. So there's something in your physiological body that triggers you that it's time to do something. Emotions are like that. So the shocking thing that a lot of people may not know is that even emotions like fear, anxiety are not bad in themselves, because it is telling you that it's time to do something. And the reality is that if you notice someone that does not have these emotions, the person doesn't seem like a normal human being. If somebody does not have emotions of regret, does it seem like a normal person to you? So the person can just continue in life doing different things and having no regrets. So in as much as regret is a strong negative emotion about something that happened, something maybe you did or something you didn't do, that emotion is not bad in itself, because it's a nudge telling you it's time to do something. Maybe time to make amends, maybe time to do, one thing or the other. It's not necessarily bad in itself. So then if it's not necessarily bad in itself, then why are we talking about it? We're talking about it because sometimes, like the feeling of regret, any emotion, when it gets to the point that you cannot control it, or it gets to the point that it is controlling your life, that you are so focused on this emotion of regret, I made a mistake, I did something, or whatever the emotion is, that your life is centered around it, there's a problem. And let me tell you why there's a problem. There's a problem because when you're in a state of high emotions, negative emotions for a prolonged time, it is affecting your brain. So psychologists said that your brain is in a traumatic state. And when your brain is in a traumatic state, you do not function normally. So one of the studies show that if your brain is in that traumatic state, you do not have the ability to learn new things. You do not have the ability to assimilate new information. So that is why consistent negative emotions that you can't control physiologically, even apart from mentally, is not good for you. When we talked about emotions last 2 weeks ago, we talked about the fact that certain emotions cause you physiological sicknesses. It can affect your heart, your blood pressure. So when you are in that constant state of regret, your ability to function properly in the now is greatly reduced. So that is why, in as much as we said regret as an emotion is not bad in itself, but when it gets to the point that you can't control it, then you need to watch it. So we want to talk about, so what can I do? I have done some things in the past and I feel so unhappy. It has impacted my life. I'm not in a good state where I'm supposed to be today. What can I do? And that's why we're here to talk. So the first thing is the process of evaluation. I want you to, and if you can, if you have a pen and a paper, I want you to use it. So let me tell you why I want you to use it. A lot of you here have never been to therapy. You've never been to seen a professional psychotherapist or counselor. So this might be your first time. So what we're doing today is called therapy, but it's group therapy. And you have the opportunity to be in a group, so you're not exposing yourself, because people are a little bit uncomfortable with therapy. But this is therapy. So if you have a pen and a paper, please just bring it out. You can use your phone. I need you to write, because the work that is needed to be done for you to have a better mental health is for you to be, part of that work. So you need to note some things down. You need to write out some things, because it's not a matter of, oh, I listened to this message and it's all fine. You need to put some work. So take a piece of paper. I am living in a state of regret. I am overwhelmed by my emotions, the mistakes I've made that is impacting my current life. So what do I do? The first thing is the process of evaluation. So why do you need to evaluate? Let me shock you. Because that thing that you are saying you regret may not be a mistake. I'll take it again. Just because you think that something is a mistake and you're regretting doesn't mean it is a mistake. So let me give you an example. I don't know why I didn't take the opportunity to travel to Canada when everybody was traveling to Canada. I made a mistake. You are saying you made a mistake because your current situation is very negative. But I'm here to tell you that it's not every time that you're in a negative situation that the decision that got you there is a mistake. You may actually be where you're supposed to be, but you need to apply certain principles to overcome those negative issues. So that you are in a relationship, or you're married, or you are on a job. I wanted to be a lawyer, now I'm an accountant. It was a mistake. It may not be. That relationship you're in may not be a mistake. It's just that you have not found the right information to ensure that that relationship functions properly. You may have not found the proper information, to do what you need to do. So even though you're in Nigeria, you may just need the proper information to thrive in Nigeria. Your being Nigeria may not be a mistake. So your regret is already misplaced. So I need you to evaluate carefully what you're calling mistake, what you're regretting, because it may not be. It may be. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that if you put it under the scrutiny of proper evaluation, you will ask yourself, is it that it is really a mistake? Or is it that I have not found the proper way to handle it? So you need to do that. So that's the first thing you need to do. Now, when you have done that, and you find out that this is indeed a mistake, and I regret doing this, this is what you need to do. Write out that mistake. So this is where the practical comes in. I was lazy at work and I was sacked. Now, that is a real mistake. That is really something to regret, because we're being very real. And we're being very real, understanding that nobody's perfect. So maybe you were working in an organization and you were not putting in your best and you were let go. That is a mistake. And that's something that, it's regrettable. So write it down. I was lazy. I didn't put in my best and I lost my job. I'm giving you an example. I don't know what you may be thinking about. I messed up my relationship. So I was in a relationship and I messed up because I was too clingy, I was too emotional, because I was lying, because I cheated. Write it down. And as I am talking, I will explain to you why it's important, because we're saying we want to thrive beyond the mistakes we have made. And this is the work we're doing. This is the therapy. So write it down. I didn't put my best, I was sacked. I did not go for my master's degree at that time, and now I'm losing out on opportunities that I should have. Write it down. That was a mistake. I regret it, because the amount I'm supposed to be earning now, I can't earn it because I have not done it. It was a mistake. So whatever yours is, can you write it down? Because if you go for psychotherapy, if you go for counseling, these are the activities you'll be given to do. So write it down. And you will notice that professional counseling is a little bit of different from the kind of counseling you get online in social media when you say, just go and feel better. No. Professional counseling is not like that. We will give you the exact science of what is going on. So if you can catch that, then it will help you. So when you've written down the mistake, I lied, I cheated, I didn't put in my best. People were talking to me derogatorily and I didn't stand up for myself. And I feel bad now that I should have stood up for myself. Write it down. Then when you write it down, the first thing you need to do is called the locus of control. The locus of control is what is within your power to handle and what is outside your power. What is within your ability to change and what is outside. So in insurance, they call it the act of God. So the locus of control is saying, this thing you're saying that you regret, this thing that you're saying that is causing you pain, was it within your power to control 100%? So for instance, if you were saying, I didn't do my master's, and you maybe at that time, maybe I didn't do my bachelor's degree, I didn't go to university, and because I come from a humble background, is that really your fault? Is that really your fault? Like maybe if I come out of my house and I'm going to Ikeja from Maryland, and and a trailer has covered the road, and it takes me 2 hours, and I say, I regret passing here, is a mistake. Even though it was a mistake, was it really in my control to handle? No. So put what you're talking about as regret under the locus of control and find out, was it really my problem? Or was it that some life happened to me that I couldn't understand and I couldn't manage? Because you need to have that clearly. Because sometimes the things we are saying we made a mistake and we regret are things that happened to us, or at least 90% was outside our control. And that's very important for us to understand. If you have now done that, and you now find out that this particular issue is within my control, I was the one that messed up. I like people to talk. So can you give me some examples of things? I know it might not be you, but can you give me some examples of things to say, this happened and it's a cause for regret? So some situations that could have happened to anybody, maybe it's something you heard, give us some example. Because now we want to talk about, we have now outlined the fact that we've now understood the fact that this thing is in my control. I messed up. So we can now talk about it. So the first thing I said is, find out if that thing is really a mistake. Because you're in a challenging situation doesn't mean that what got you there was a mistake. It might just be that situation is challenging and you need help. I now said, if you now find out that it was really a mistake, what is the locus of control? Was it within your control or was it outside your control? Please find that out. And if you now say, okay, I was actually in charge of this thing and I messed up, the next thing is to say, okay, what did I do? What was the thing that I did? What happened? Like I said, nobody is talking, but it's fine. What happened? What happened? So it could be, so let's give some incidents that could have happened. So maybe I gave some before. And I'm going to be very real. I mismanaged my finances and now I'm broke. I got into a partnership with, okay, go ahead. Somebody wants to
Good
talk. Good evening. You want to say something?
evening.
Go ahead. You want to say?
Yes, to talk. Yes, ma'am. You said we should give. Yes, ma'am. I wanted to say. Yes, you said we
Go
should give
ahead.
an instance. For
Yeah.
instance, when I lost my late husband like
Okay.
10 years ago.
Okay.
So as at that time, I cry and I weep almost every day because I was pregnant when I lost him.
Okay.
So I keep crying, crying and crying and crying. And along the line, people were like, you are too young, you are too young, you need to remarry this, that. And I was like, and along the line, he was going to take care of me, take care of the children. And that was how I entered into the relationship. So after entering into the relationship, I found out that if I had known, and I started regretting at times that, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
So there were times that I would even have to start crying and start thinking, if I had known, I shouldn't have taken this step and all of that. And I started regretting. So that's
Okay.
my example.
Okay, so thank you for that example. Does anybody have another example? Okay, let me continue. Let me continue. So she said she lost her husband and then she was crying. So Motorai, what was the mistake and the regret there? I don't think I caught it. What was the mistake and the regret?
The mistake was that I fell into the wrong hand. I fell into the hand of
Okay.
the wrong hand, as in I was not, if I was, although as at that time I was actually vulnerable. So I wasn't, I
Okay.
would say I wasn't thinking right. And I took a very fast decision.
Okay.
So of which later on I found out that it wasn't that kind of person I should have gotten along with. That was
Okay.
the regret. And
Okay.
because of the way the person treated me and my children, I started regretting.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So you
Yes.
have given a perfect example of something that you did and is causing you pain at this time. So we want to talk about it. So now that you've checked, you've analyzed the issue and you said, yes, this is really a mistake. I've checked the locus of control and yes, it was within my power to handle. What can you do about it? So the first thing is that can amends be made? Can you make amends? And this is not for Motora, this is for any mistake you made in general. But when I talk about making amends, I want us to be very careful. Because when you try to make amends for something that is making you feel bad, be careful that you are not transferring a bad emotion to another person. So maybe you are a side chick and you have decided that I'm tired of being a side chick. I've caused some women pain. So I'm going to call the wife of this my and tell her I'm sorry. You are transferring the pain to another person. So maybe you say, I stole in my former office. So I'm going to go to the office on Monday and tell them I have been stealing. You need to have counsel before you do those things. Making amends is one of the ways we can overcome some things that we have done, mistakes we've done that are causing us regret. Before you decide to make amends. So the first thing you can do is make amends, but please do that with a lot of wisdom. The second thing is, and this is where I a lot of negative emotions of regrets, is that when you say I did this, And for instance, let's talk about the fact that maybe I had the money, I didn't do my bachelor's degree or my master's degree, and now my career is suffering and I'm a little bit older, or maybe I didn't get married at the time I was supposed to, and now I want children, but I'm a little bit older. Oh, you know, just put, what is it? So, because what you do, what you need to understand is that what you are regretting today is because you now have an understanding of something. So if I was working in an organization and they sacked me because I was not diligent, I have now learned the importance of diligence in growth, career growth. If I was in a relationship and I was not the best person I could have been in that relationship, and that relationship suffered, I have now come to understand that I value relationships, and I need to understand that for those relationships to thrive, I need to do certain things. So I want to show you a diagram. And I said, please, if you have a pencil or whatever, please just notice that you can screenshot this. I want to show you this diagram because I want to explain something. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen? Can you just if you can see my screen? Can anybody see the screen I'm sharing? If you can see my screen, let me know, please. Can you unmute yourself? Can everybody see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful. Now, I want to show you something here. Now, I have outlined some things that can cause regret. I regret not pursuing that career, maybe because I didn't have the qualification. I regret the way I handled that relationship. I regret that I allowed them to treat me like that. Maybe people treated you poorly and you didn't say anything about it. I regret not putting my best and losing that job. So I want to show you something. Now, for each of these regrets, there's a value you lost. So if you look at the screen now, I regret not pursuing that career. Now I see the value of education. Maybe that was why I couldn't, get the career because I didn't have the requisite qualification. I regret the way I handled that relationship because now I understand the value of relationships. If you don't see the value, you will not have any regrets. I'm sure you've come across some people that don't regret anything. Is it because they don't see any value they've lost? But what you are regretting is the value you lost. I regret that I allowed people to treat me like that because now I understand it is important to respect myself. So there's a value you lost. And I want you to focus on this value you lost if you're going to thrive beyond regrets and mistakes. I regret not putting my best and losing that job because now I understand the importance and value of hard work and integrity in ensuring that I grow in my assignments. So for every regret, there's a value you have recognized that you lost. I lost the opportunity for career. I lost the opportunity for relationships, which are important to me because I like, being in a qualitative relationships. I lost the opportunity to, set boundaries around myself so that people can respect me. There's a value you lost. And you know why it's important that you focus on the value? Let me tell you why. In the left side, I still put regrets and the value lost. Today, the emotions you have, that regret you have, you can now put it into a needed action. So you have lost a career and you have seen there's value in education. What can you do today to pursue education today? I regret that I messed up in my relationship because now I understand the value of healthy relationships. What are you doing in the relationships around you? And when I'm talking about relationships around you, you may have lost an intimate relationship, and maybe you were dating Emeka, you were dating Cynthia, and it didn't work out well. But you've now understood that there's some things I need to do to make relationships work. So my question is, what are you doing today to ensure integrity, kindness in the relationships you have today? Not necessarily intimate relationships, even relationships with your neighbors, relationships at work, relationships with your siblings, with your parents. What are you doing today to be the person that you were not when you made that mistake? So that's why I said, for everything you did, recognize the important value that I realize this is important. I realize that relationships are important. I realize that integrity is important. I was bullied. I understand the importance of demanding respect for myself. Are you demanding respect for yourself today? Are you demanding respect for yourself today? Because what you're doing is that it's like you're apologizing to your former self. To say, I made a mistake at that time, but this is me today and I'm righting the wrong. And you know why that is so critical? Because when you do this, you take these current actions today because of the value you time. When you look back on the regrets, you will see the correct actions you are taking today, and then the regret is not so potent. Because why you allowed this thing to happen before, this is you today saying, I'm going to speak up for myself. This is you today saying, I'm going to work hard in any organization I find myself. This is you today saying, I'm going to take all assignments seriously and I'm going to be the best person I can be in my current relationship, whatever structure of relationships it is. So what you are doing is that you are rewriting the story. You're rewriting the story so that whenever you look back, it is not only that situation that is causing you pain you see, what you also see is the work that you have put in that is making you a different person from who that person is. So to give you a recap is that if you have written out what you did, that is a mistake. And you have checked that is there any room, sorry, for to make amends, and there is none. Or you now say, okay, what did I do? What was the value and the important thing that I lost? What can I do today to, be that person that my former self will be proud of? It's not the same situation, it's not the same person, but today, the value I have learned in the fact that I need to be hardworking because I made a mistake, I need to be a loyal partner because maybe I cheated or maybe I lied. How am I imbibing the values today? Because regret is a current emotion. Even though the thing happened in the past, the emotion of regret you have today is current. So you can take that emotion and you can do something about it. You can do something about it today so that whenever you look back and that pain comes, also the action that you have taken today also comes. And the negativity of that regret is greatly reduced to the point that it goes away. I hope you got that. The other thing I want to say is I'm going to open for comments very soon and questions. The other thing I will say in regrets is that some people have done very negative things. Some people have done things that are even illegal. And the reality is that as psychotherapists, there's something that we have a mandate called unconditional positive regard. So unconditional positive regard means that I must treat everybody with the highest level of regard. So the way I'm talking to you about these mistakes of school or relationship is the to a thief or someone that has done something really bad, especially if the person has served their time and they have now come for counseling. So let's say, for instance, there's somebody and maybe I've been to jail or I was a prostitute, and you see, they'll say maybe this thing you have just thing you have structured, you have just given, does not really apply to me because even till now, I'm still making mistakes every day. So what do I do? Because even till today, I am making mistakes. I'm going to give you something, the Bible talks about it. Because I'm a Christian, and so I get a lot of my insights. Psychology gets a lot of its insights from the Bible, but it doesn't bring it like a script 28 that says, let him who stole steal no more, but rather let him working with his hands what is good, that he may have something to give who has need. This is like a scripture on you have committed bad actions. And you're here today and you're like regretting it. What does the Bible say? It says, stop stealing and start helping people. So if you're in a situation where I have consistently followed a wrong path, you can be an advocate, helping people not to follow that path. So if you were an armed robber, you're a prostitute, whatever it is, you can now become an advocate against that situation. I watched a clip about a pedophile. A pedophile is someone that molests children. And he was sharing insights on what pedophiles, how they attack children. What is their modus operandi? What do they do? And one thing he said, he talked about the fact that if there's no strong male figure in the family, those children are easy targets. It might not be a father. It could be an uncle or a grandfather or just a brother. He said, I target those kind of families. I target families that do not have strong spiritual, upbringing. I target those families. I target loners. Children that are loners that, you see them going to school on their own, they're doing things. I target them. Why was he doing that? Because he was remorseful. And he decided that the only way I cannot go back and right the wrong, but from today, I can continue in a path that advocates against what I was doing. Another person that comes to mind in the Bible is Apostle Paul. Let me tell you what I learned about Apostle Paul and teachers in the Bible. And I always wondered that why was he more, so committed? And it dawned on me that when Apostle Paul found God, and I'm using Christian examples because I'm Christian. You can use whatever examples you want. When Apostle Paul found God after he had finished killing Christians. They don't talk about mental health or regrets like that in the Bible, but it's there. He regretted what he did. So he devoted his life righting that wrong. That if I can, live the rest of my life righting the wrong that I did, then my life will be meaningful. He was trying to make up for killing Christians. So that's why he was so committed. And if you look at people that are committed to different causes, you will notice that a lot of them were former this, right the wrong. So if you have, so I've given us certain parameters that we can use to overcome regrets. One is, can you make amends? If you can, go ahead. But be very careful. If you can't make amends, what can you do? What is the thing that happened? What is the value that you lost? What can you do today to begin to walk in that value? Because when you look back and the regret comes, the actions you have taken today also come, and it reduces the potency of that negative feeling that making you feel bad because you've done something about it. Or you can be an advocate for something that you had been part of before. You commit the rest of your life in being an advocate against that thing to support people. And so the final thing I want to close with is, I've said all this, but somehow people still find it difficult to, move away from their regrets. I've said all this, I've given you all the points, but some people are still saying, it's difficult. So why is it difficult? So let me tell you why it's difficult. It's difficult because you are overanalyzing what happened. And sometimes you're even giving it a reality that is not true. So you're thinking that if I had married that man, by now I will be living, in luxury. It's not true. It might not be true. You're overanalyzing and giving that situation more power than it's supposed to have. The reality is that even if you had, done this or done that, it doesn't mean that your life would have been so different. So don't give it the power it does not have. Don't overanalyze it. Just take, like I said, write it down, analyze it, at that point in time, decide what I'm going to do about it, and let the actions that you want to do be what you're focusing on rather than the regret. Another thing that why people find it difficult to move on from regret is self-loathing. They hate themselves. They're angry with themselves for what they did. So what I would tell you is you can only fight hate with compassion. You need to forgive yourself. You've made the mistake. It has happened. You need to forgive yourself. And another reason is shame. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of what I did. And you know what I would say to that is that somebody made a statement that says shame dies in sunlight. It says shame dies in sunlight. What does that mean? Put that shame under scrutiny. Call someone you trust and say, I am ashamed of this thing that I did. Put it to scrutiny. It says shame dies in sunlight. That thing you think is so, it's giving you so much shame. If you put it under scrutiny, you know, people will talk to you and you will feel better. Seek closure. I feel bad about this thing. Seek closure. So to give a recap is that find out if what you're regretting is really a mistake, or maybe it's just that situations are not so comfortable and you're thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't have moved. In fact, some of the people will say it's a mistake that I moved out of the country, but it might not be a mistake. It's just that they have not found their path. So you need to be sure what you're calling a mistake is really a mistake. The second thing is clearly write that mistake out. I messed up because I lied. I cheated. I didn't stand up for myself and I regret it. Write it down and ask yourself, is there any way I can make amends? Is there any way I can make amends? Are the people still available? Is the situation still salvageable? If it is, with careful counsel, make amends. If you can't make amends, look at that graph that I wrote. What happened? What was the value you lost? What can you be doing today to ensure that that value resides in your life? So when you look back, you're not just seeing the regrets, but you are seeing the fact that you've taken actions currently. And then if it's something that has been illegal or immoral, become an advocate. You know, a lot of people that have these NGOs that do things, it's things that they have passed through, and they've become an advocate to say, I'm going to ensure that nobody goes to help people because I did this and I'm not happy. Forgive yourself. Talk about the shame and move on. You see, there were two characters in the Bible that were very, interesting to me, Judas and Peter, because one betrayed Jesus and one denied Jesus. But Judas killed himself and Peter went on to become a leader. Why? Because some people may say, oh, but Judas, because he betrayed Jesus, he was destined to die. But let me give you something that may shock you. When Jesus was on the cross, he said, Father, forgive. He was talking about the people that killed him. That Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So if Jesus can forgive the people that killed him, don't you think he could have forgiven Judas that betrayed him? But Judas did not wait to find out because he was so riddled with guilt that he killed himself. So don't be that person. All of us are human. All of us make mistakes. All of us. So you need to find out how to channel that mistake into a way that your life becomes valuable. Judas lost out because he was overcome. But Peter, even though he did something, he stayed. And his life, is recorded as one of the, the strong apostles or disciples of God. Into 19 says, is a popular scripture amongst us Christians. It says, remember not the former things. It says, remember not the former things. And he says, I want to read, he said, I will do a new thing. This is because, I will do a new thing. Remember not the former things, I will do a new thing. Why does he say that? And I told you that psychology gets a lot of learnings from the Bible. When God said, remember not the former things, he said, I will do a new thing. What is he saying? Is that I'm going to create an action that will mitigate the former thing, because you cannot forget the former thing if there is no current action that is negating that former thing, or that is fighting or countering that former thing. So God knew that if I'm telling them to forget the former things, I need to create something new that they can remember. So if you're trying to rise above regrets and mistakes, you need to create something new that counters the thoughts around those regrets. So that when you it's as if you want to look back to the regret, what you see are those other actions that you have taken that is saying, yes, you messed up, but well done. You have done other things to show value. That is how you can thrive. That is how you can overcome mistakes and still live a life of value. You must replace it with something else. You must replace it with something else. And you must do something today that is speaking to, what is painful to you yesterday. Your today self is saying, I'm sorry to your yesterday self, but I'm taking action today. That is how you can overcome the regrets. That's how you can overcome. So I want to open the chat now. I think I've shared a lot for questions, comments. If you have a situation and you want to talk about it or you have a comment, this is the time. This is Unburden. It's for us to talk that, you've said everything, but this is my situation. Questions and comments, it's time. So please go ahead. You can raise your hand. You can unmute yourself. You can ask a question. Let's hear your thoughts. Let's hear your thoughts. Is anybody? Do we have any questions? Any questions? Any comments? Auntie, you want to say something?
I want to just first of all appreciate the invite. This has been quite an eye-opener, really. And I think what has caught me most here was when you talked about not overanalyzing the situation. I actually hit myself and said, yes, that's it. I'll overanalyze. Because I think when I speak for myself, overanalyze, I begin to see more errors and live in the past rather than, hey, this situation has happened. What do I make out of it? And I thank you so much for this, the results, what we should make out of our mistakes, because I quickly went back to let him that stole steal no more. But it says, even when you stop that stealing, labor. So if I'm going to stop that regret, I must have a plan and focus on the plan. And when I focus on the plan, I'm abandoning myself from the regret. And then my pain will eventually become somebody's gain because I'm able to advise more and say at the end of it, Father, thank you for that part I went through because I'm now a better person. So I want to appreciate you for this insight. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Absolutely. You are channeling that pain and you're making it somebody else's gain. So that is one of the critical ways that you can overcome a life of regrets, because we make mistakes. We're human. We make mistakes. Is there anybody else, before we round off for today, because we're almost at the 1 hour mark. Is there any other comments, contributions? Is there anything in the chat? Let me just go to the chat. Okay. So it's just former comments. Okay. So I think someone has put something there that you can continue if you have other comments or contributions. If you go to the chat, Miriam has put up a phone number and the social media handles. We can send our messages there and we can continue. Some people may want to send private messages. That is the number. Send a private message or send a private comment, and then we'll take it from there. So thank you so much for being part of Unburden for this session. If I don't have any hands up or any comments, I want to close for today. I want to close for today. Okay. Mr. Alfred, you want to say something? Mr. Okugbeni, do you want to say something, sir?
Okay, just to give a general vote of thanks on behalf of participants. Dinri, thank you for doing this. We did not pay to be able to, get this group therapy, but then this is highly appreciated. I can speak for myself, and I'm sure for a lot of other people. Keep up the good work. And in due season, I'm sure you'll be rewarded. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Bola. Thank you for all those that said thank you. Thank you, Alan. God bless you. We will see at the next session of Unburden. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ayo. Everybody have a good evening. And remember that your emotions are not bad in themselves, but when they become so much that you can see is not a stigma, is a solution. So have a good evening. Thank you.